parts move. We use muscles to walk, jump, throw a ball, or even blink an eyelid. Muscles in our chest make breathing possible. Muscles in our heart pump our blood throughout our circulatory system, and muscles in our stomach and intestines move food through our digestive tract. Muscles are responsible for maintaining our posture and, during physical activities, produce heat. About 40 to 50% of our body weight is made up of muscle tissue, a little more in men, a little less in women. These structures are responsible for every movement we make. All muscle tissue possesses 4 special properties. Excitability, which allows a muscle to receive and respond to stimuli. Contractility, which allows a muscle to contract or shorten. Extensibility, which enables a muscle to stretch. And elasticity, which allows a muscle to return to its original shape after contraction. And there are 3 kinds of muscle tissue: skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle. The majority of our muscle tissue, and the kind we are generally most familiar with, is skeletal muscle tissue. There are over 600 skeletal muscles in our body, and they range from the tiniest muscles in our inner ear, which are only 1 millimeter long and almost invisible to the naked eye, to the giant gluteus maximus, which forms most of each buttock. Skeletal muscles are also called voluntary muscles because we generally have voluntary or conscious control over them. Many skeletal muscles work in pairs. Because muscle tissue can only contract, that is, become shorter and thicker, a muscle can pull, but it cannot push. It will return to its original shape when it relaxes, but it has no power to push itself back to its relaxed shape. This is why most skeletal muscles are attached in ways that let them pull against each other. Most of these muscle pairs are attached on opposite sides of a joint. The strong tendons at the ends of the muscles are attached to the bone a little past the joint. A tendon, or sinew, is a tough band of fibrous connective tissue that connects muscle to bone. They are similar to ligaments, except ligaments join one bone to another. For example, the biceps muscle on the upper surface of our upper arm is paired with the triceps muscle on the lower surface. When the biceps muscle contracts, it pulls on the bone and flexes the joint or makes its angle smaller. When the triceps contracts, it pulls in the opposite direction and extends the joint or makes the angle larger. By working together with one muscle contracting and the other relaxing, these 2 muscles can move the lower arm to any position within its range of movement. The same thing occurs in our upper leg. The quadriceps muscle on the front surface of the leg is opposed by 3 hamstring muscles, which work together on the back of the leg. Very few motions are accomplished with the use of only 1 or 2 muscles. By controlling the hundreds of muscles attached to the bones near all our joints, we can perform many complicated actions that can be both powerful and very delicate, such as dancing or running and dribbling a basketball. Not all skeletal muscles are attached to bones. There are 30 muscles that control the movements of our face, and some of these, like the circular muscle around our lips, pull against themselves or other facial tissues so we can change the shape of our lips and make many different facial expressions. Many Many skeletal muscles, like the biceps muscle, are spindle-shaped, which means they are fatter in the middle and taper towards the tendons at the end where they attach to bones. The fatter part of the muscle is called the belly and is made up of bundles called fascicles. Each fascicle is itself a bundle of muscle fibers. Each fiber is a single cell running the full length of the muscle and can be up to 30 centimeters long. A single skeletal muscle fiber is an unusual cell. Unlike most of our body's cells, which each possess a single nuclei, it possesses multiple nuclei on its outer surface and is made up of bundles of myofibrils. Myofibrils themselves are made up of actin or myosin filaments, which are arranged end to end in separate units called sarcomeres. This gives muscle fiber its distinctively striated or banded appearance. The entire skeletal muscle structure is rather like a car antenna or telescope, multiple bundles tightly packed inside one another. Tissue surrounding the bundles contains blood vessels, which provide oxygen and fuel to the muscle, and nerve cells, which transmit signals to the muscle, causing it to contract. When a nerve signal is received, calcium is released inside the muscle fibers, which causes them to contract. Actual contraction occurs when thin actin filaments are pulled towards thicker myosin filaments, thus shortening the sarcomere. As this reaction takes place along each muscle fiber, the whole muscle contracts up to as much as 1/3 its normal length. Subsequently, as the muscle relaxes, the actin filaments slide back into their original positions, and the whole muscle expands back to its original length. When a muscle fiber contracts, it never stops partway, but contracts as far as it can. If we need to make a small movement or lift something light, such as a pen, only a few fibers will be activated to contract. But if we need to lift something heavy, like a barbell, all of the fibers will be activated. To get full power, the nerve signals will cause all of the fibers to be synchronized and contract at the same time. The energy our muscles need in order to contract forms a large part of our daily nutritional requirements. In other words, we eat so we can move. How this energy is provided to and used by the muscles involve major contributions from the circulatory, digestive, and respiratory systems. For example, when we exert ourselves by running, we breathe heavier and heavier because our muscle cells need more and more oxygen to burn more and more fuel to provide the necessary energy for more and more contractions. This releases heat and byproducts like lactic acid that must be removed from the cells. We must breathe rapidly after exertion to help restore our muscles to their resting state. This is called recovery oxygen consumption, and the lactic acid that has accumulated in our muscles during vigorous exercise makes our muscles feel sore and tired. Most of our skeletal muscles are under our voluntary control. Even the muscles we use for breathing, such as the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles that lift our rib cage during deep breathing, can be consciously controlled when we choose to do so. Smooth muscle tissue is different. It is usually controlled by the autonomic nervous system, and we are not aware of it. Smooth muscle exists in the walls of many of our internal organs, including most of the digestive system, the airways of the respiratory system, and our blood vessels. It can either contract or relax to control the width of these passages. For example, the smooth muscle tissue surrounding your blood vessels can contract to constrict the blood vessels and make it harder for blood to flow to certain areas. This can control blood pressure and divert blood to where it is most needed. such as sending blood to the surface of the body to radiate heat outside the body. Smooth muscle cells look different and act differently from skeletal muscle tissue. They are shorter than skeletal muscle cells, and each smooth muscle cell has only one nucleus, like most of the other cells in our body. In general, they contract more gradually and can remain contracted for a long time. Smooth muscle cells often operate in groups. When one is stimulated to contract, usually all the surrounding cells will contract as well. In our esophagus and intestines, some smooth muscle cells are arranged lengthwise and some wrap around. By alternately contracting these two kinds of smooth muscles, a moving wave of contraction called peristalsis is created that pushes material along. Smooth muscles in the ureters and bladder keep urine flowing away from the kidneys and then out of the body. At the bottom of the bladder, a ring of smooth muscle called a sphincter holds urine in the bladder. A similar sphincter of skeletal muscle nearby that is under your conscious control enables us to urinate. In the female reproductive system, smooth muscles in the fallopian tubes transport an egg to the uterus. There are even tiny bundles of smooth muscle cells at the base of each hair on your skin. Under emotional stress or sudden sensations of cold, these muscles contract involuntarily and pull the hairs straight up to cause what we call goosebumps. Cardiac muscle tissue, also called the myocardium, forms the wall of the heart. The internal structure of cardiac muscle fibers is similar to skeletal muscle, though there is only one nucleus per cell. But cardiac muscle tissue has several special features. Specialized cardiac muscle fibers, called nodal tissues, conduct the electrical current that stimulates our heart to beat. And cardiac muscle is very strong and nearly tireless. It continues to beat hour after hour, day after day, year after year. The average adult heart pumps blood at the rate of approximately 5 liters a minute. This is equal to roughly 7,200 liters each day. Over an average lifetime, it could fill more than 3 supertankers with blood. In periods of extra stress, for example when running or exercising vigorously, the cardiac muscle is capable of speeding up, so more blood is pumped, and all the cells of the body, especially the muscles, will get more oxygen and fuel. When the heart is working as hard as it can, the heart's pumping capacity can go up from about 5 liters a minute to as much as 40 liters a minute. Our survival depends in large part upon our ability to adjust to changing conditions in our environment. Movement constitutes the major part of this adjustment. Although all the systems of the body have a role in body movements, it is the skeletal and muscular systems acting together which actually produce movements. The muscles of our body work together every minute of the day to keep our bodies moving and alive.
Everyone get the light.